Alright, this is a replica of the in-class exercise we did on March 21st. All I've done is change the numbers. So first thing it's asking me is what is M1? And I'm given that the public has 180 in currency and there are no deposits since there's no banking system. So the M1, using the definition, M1 is equal to deposits plus currency. So M1 equals 0 plus 180. There are no deposits. So M1 is 180. And so we're told that the public is going to deposit half of that currency it's holding into the banking system. And that's what's going to get this deposit creation process in motion. So I'm going to take 50% of the currency and deposit it in the bank. So I'm going to have this deposit here of $90. Then I'm told that the bank wants to hold 20% of that deposit, in fact 20% of all deposits, on reserve. So we're going to come over here and give yourself some room. Reserves are going to be initially 20% of that new deposit, and that's going to give me an $18 deposit. Now what they're going to do with the remainder of that $90, once they've held $18 aside, is they're going to extend a loan. And the amount of that loan, I'm going to come over here and work. I can simply figure out that the loan that they make is going to be the difference between the deposit and what they're holding on reserve. And so that gives me a loan of $72. And I'm going to erase this so I have some more room. But the idea is if the person receiving the loan, we're going to assume for this first loan that they hold it, sorry about that, hold it as a deposit. And so we're going to add another deposit over here. So now I've got another deposit. And again, what that bank's going to do is hold 20% of that on reserve. So I got to figure out what 20% of 72 is. Turns out that is $14.40. That's 20% of 72. And again, they're going to loan out the difference between 72 and 14.4. So to figure out the next loan, that loan is going to be $72 minus the 14.4 they're holding in reserve. And my math tells me that that's going to be a loan of $57.60. Okay, now we're told that that second loan gets deposited as well. And hold on, I'm going to erase that, give myself some room here. The second loan is going to be deposited into the banking system. So I'm going to have an additional deposit, $57.60. And once again, the bank's going to hold 20% of that new loan, $57.60, on reserve. So I'm going to add some reserves here. And it turns out that 20% of 57.6, that gives me reserve of 11.52. Now they're going to lend out the difference between the deposit amount, the amount they're holding against that deposit, 20% or 11.52, they're going to lend out that difference. So the third loan is going to be 57.6 minus 11.52. And that works out to be $46.08. And that gives me the third loan. And again, I'm going to erase that. Okay. Now, we're told that the third loan is actually going to be held as currency. Whoops, I didn't mean to erase that. Gosh darn it. So let me, okay, sorry about that. I managed to erase some of the stuff that I didn't want to erase. So anyways, let me get back to this. So we're told that the third loan the $46.08 is going to stay out of the banking system. It's going to be held as currency. And now what we're asked then is, after these three loans, how much money exists in the economy now? And so what I want to recognize then is, well, there's been some changes. So we know that we're going to use our definition of M1. M1 is deposits plus currency. And I'm going to come over here and we'll pick up deposits first. Well, I have my deposits are all listed right there. So I've got those three deposits to add. So that's going to give me 90 plus 72 plus 57.6. So there's the deposits. And now I'm going to get the currency. And I want to be careful here. My currency, well, I had 180, but half of that, $90, was put in to the bank and became a deposit. So I got to subtract that away. And then we said that the third loan is held as currency, so I want to add that. So I've got 46.08. And that's my currency portion of M1. So if I add all that together, you'll get $355.68. And that's how much money is now in the economy. Now finally what they're asking is, suppose that you did this an infinite number of times and all of the loans that were made are deposited back into the banking system. And they're asking us to use the money multiplier that we derived in class to figure out how many total deposits are created by the bank. So the new deposits then, new deposits, you want to remember that $90, that deposit, that first deposit, that wasn't created by the bank. That was simply a function of the fact that the public converted currency to deposits. So the $90 is not part of this deposit creation process. It's where the funds come from that get the process going. The first new deposit is the $72 that was loaned out. Remember, we got the $90 deposit, we put 18 into reserves, and we loaned out the remaining 72. So those new deposits start with $72 plus 57.6, and if I just continued this process an infinite number of times, I would just add up all those deposits. And we said before that's a infinite sum of series that converges, and I can simply say there's a formula for that. I can figure out how many new deposits are going to be created by taking 1 over the reserve ratio times that first deposit that was created from the deposit creation process, which is 72. In fact, it's the first loan that was made. That was created by the bank, and this is the bank deposit creation process. So if I do that math, that gives me 360 total new deposits are going to be created. I'll put the 360 there. All right, I hope that worked out okay for you.
Made with Doodlecast Pro.